Hi everyone, and welcome back to this Flash game design tutorial series where we're looking at how to develop the Pong game in Flash, and we're also using a coding language called ActionScript 3. So for some of you this is also an introduction to computer programming, which you might find quite exciting. Okay, so let's look at what we're trying to do in today's tutorial. In today's tutorial, we're going to try to make that ball bounce. Every time it reaches an edge of the game area, it bounces. And we want to make sure that the ball is bouncing in the correct direction. And that can be a little bit tricky when you're not used to the idea. I'll try to explain it as easily as I can, or as clearly as I can. And at the end of the tutorial, I am going to give you a short challenge to see if you can figure out what I'm talking about. Okay? Let's just look at what happens when we mess this up. By the way, so the ball is traveling in a direction and it bounces. Oh no! I don't want it to bounce like that. So what we're going to look at today is it's quite interesting. Let me try and explain. Okay. Now we know that the top left coordinate of our game area is x equals 0 and y equals 0. And when we travel in this direction along the game area, the x value is increasing. When we move from left to right, x gets bigger. So I'm going to call that a positive, what should we call it? Speed? A positive speed. Okay. So from left to right, x has a positive speed, and from right to left, the value of x is getting smaller. It's going back towards the 0 value. So I'm going to call that a negative speed. So for x, we have a positive speed in this direction, and a negative speed in this direction. Okay? Let's look at the y direction. If the ball is traveling down the game area, it has a positive speed. So y has a positive speed when it's moving down, because the value of y is getting bigger. Remember, this line here, y equals 400, and this line here, y equals 0. So when the ball is traveling from 0 to 400, the value of y is getting bigger. I'm going to call that a positive y speed. And when it bounces on the edge and starts going up the screen, y is getting smaller. So I'm going to call that a negative y speed. Okay? And this little diagram here can help us figure things out as well. Let's imagine that the center of this diagram is where x equals 0 and y equals 0. When we're traveling in this direction here, we can see that x is getting bigger and y is getting bigger. So we're traveling in a positive direction on the x and the y coordinates axes. When we bounce on the bottom edge, x continues to be positive. We're still traveling in a positive x direction. So this is this one here. We're still traveling in a positive x direction, but the y direction it's kind of reversed or inversed. Okay? So before y was positive, and now y is negative. And when we reach this edge here, well, x is positive and y is negative, and then x becomes negative and y is still negative. And when we reach this edge here, x is still negative because we're traveling in this direction, but y has become positive because y is going from 0 to 400. So y is getting bigger and x is getting smaller. And we can see that on this line here. Y is getting bigger, but x is getting smaller. So I'm going to say that y has a positive speed and x has a negative speed when we're traveling in this direction. So we're going to use these ideas to help program the ball when it reaches the edges of our game area. And let's look at how to do that in ActionScript. Okay. F9. Bring up the code. Alright, so this is the code that we had at the end of the last tutorial. We place the ball in the center of our game area to start, and then we go into the game loop and we increment the value of x and y by 3. And that makes it look like the ball is moving on both the x-axis and the y-axis. Okay? And this is what it looks like. It's moving. Notice the direction. It's moving in that direction. So that's that direction there. So x is increasing and y is increasing. We know that. We know that because x is increasing by positive 3 and y is increasing by negative 3. Okay? Now let's imagine that I multiply that kind of speed number by -1 on the x-axis. On the x-axis, we're going to multiply 3 by -1, and on the y-axis, we're not going to change anything. So the y-axis is still positive, and the x-axis is negative. So I expect the ball is going to travel in this direction here. It's going to go down here. Let's see if that's what happens in ActionScript. Yes, it is. Okay, we're making some progress in our understanding. The problem is, I don't want the ball to change direction until it hits the edge of a game area. How can I change this value during the game loop time? That's the problem. I have an idea. I'm going to set up a little memory box in my computer which is going to store this value of 3. And when a certain situation occurs, I'm going to change that value to -3. Okay? So a little box of memory is going to help me to do that. That box of memory in computer programming is called a variable. And this is how you set up a variable in ActionScript. I have a variable. I'm going to call it xSpeed. I need to tell Flash what kind of variable this is. Is it a sound file? Is it an image thing? Is it a number? Well, yes, it's a number. In computer programming language, I'm going to call it an integer. Okay? So I've just told Flash, please create a little memory box, otherwise known as a variable. Call it xSpeed, call it what you want. I'm going to call mine xSpeed. And make sure that you tell Flash what kind of data to expect in that memory box. Well, it's expecting a number, which is an integer. And I'm just going to do another one for y-speed. It's also an integer. And at the start of my program, I'm going to assign a value to that variable. Y-speed, you will be equal to 3, and x-speed will be equal to 3, and y-speed will also be equal to 3. Brilliant! Now, in my game loop, I'm not going to hard code the value 3. I'm going to use my variable, xSpeed, and y-speed. Okay? Now let's see if that works. Control-Enter. Brilliant! Ah! Ooh! Wait a minute. Okay. So it's traveling in this direction. And if the ball's y value is equal to 400, or maybe it's kind of greater than 400, I'm going to reverse the direction of y speed. I'm going to multiply y speed by -1. I'm not going to change x speed. X is still traveling in a positive direction. Okay? This was the original course. This was the original course. And it's going down, 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 down. Bounce. This is the new course. The only thing that's changed is the y speed. The y speed has reversed. Okay? So if the ball's y coordinate becomes greater than 400, please reverse the y speed. That's what we're going to do. Let's have a go. So inside the game loop, let's just bring that up. I'm going to show you a little bit of code. If the ball's y coordinate becomes greater than 400, curly brackets, please change the value of y speed. We're going to multiply it by -1. Y speed will be equal to the current version of y speed multiplied by -1. Wow, is that going to work? Is that going to make the ball bounce? If the ball's y coordinate is greater than 400, I'm simply going to reverse the value of y speed. And then we're going to continue in the game loop, and this is now going to have, that will be a negative number. So ball y is going to get smaller because this is negative. So ball y will continue back up towards y equals 0. Let's test it. Dum 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 ding! Alright, smart people, it works. This is your challenge. Can you please create 4 more if statements in the game loop? It's 3 more, isn't it? Can you please create 3 more statements in the game loop which will allow the ball to bounce off the other 3 edges? Okay? So what we're going to see when you've finished is this. That's the one, this is the one that I did. There it goes, bounce, I did that. Now can you figure out how to do that one, and that one, and here we go, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, that one! This edge here, okay? So that's the challenge that I'm giving you. Let's just close that. Can you figure out how to make 3 more if statements to allow the other bounces to happen? Have a go.